Welcome to the Party Hard Summer Podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. As you heard, you're on the Bunny Hug Farmers Podcast. My name's Tyler Janin. I'm here with my co-host, Dallas LeDuc. That introduction, at the very beginning before the music there, that was my daughter. She was really excited to help her dad with that. So, getting back on track here. Dallas, what have you been up to lately?
Oh, like usual, I've been doing some spraying, and we got about 3,000 acres of Durham left to spray and some yellow mustard after that, and had a nice little half an inch of rain here we got overnight. I hope it makes a difference, but I think some of our early crop, that's actually going to be too little, probably too late, but I guess only time will tell. And today's what, June 20th, 21st when we're recording this?
Or the 21st of June today when we're recording
21st of June. So, well, we'll know when this comes out here that if it's made a difference or not. So we've been doing that. And today was a Saturday, and I've never done one before, but did a poker quad rally, which was a whole lot of fun. Did that, and I had some guys, I got to make fun of them. They said they were going to come, and we had a half an inch of rain, which has barely held the dust down. These guys must all be made out of sugar because none of them showed up. They must have been afraid they were going to melt if they got a little wet. But it was a good time. I think 112K I put in the old Honda. So that was fun. A Hall fundraiser. Hall made $600 profit. Not big money, but $600 in the old community hall keeps the lights on for 4 or 5 more months. So you have to do them things once in a while. So did that and spraying, getting ready for Ag in Motion coming up here, a little family camping. Oh, and I just got home from a holiday, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh, that's great. So here just recently, I went and attended, didn't attend, was in my very first tractor pull. My family has a history. Well, it basically just starts with my dad. Back in the 70s and early 80s, he actually did modified tractor pulling, and now just with the cost of it, he got out of it. And here just recently, he started again doing tractor pulls, but in the vintage class. So I went up with him here to Yorkton here on Friday, June 20th, and I pulled in the vintage class. My dad did also. In the lightweight class, he actually took first place. And then I was in a higher class than him because the tractor I was driving had my fat ass sitting on it. So it ended up being in the higher weight class. And it was my first tractor pull. I didn't place, but in the vintage pulls, there's no money. They basically hand you a crisp red note and say thanks for showing up and putting the show on for us. So it was a lot of fun. I hope to do more of it here this summer if I have time between spraying and raising kids and keeping the wife happy.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of tractor pulls, I talked to him the other day, and I'll give another Ryan from Tractor Zoom. I talked to him. He's huge in the tractor pulling in the States. He does a lot of photography and stuff for them. He's gladly joined the Bunny Hug Farmers here podcast. We're going to do one with him as soon as it works out for all of our schedules. I can't wait to do that one. Ryan's a cool ass guy. And especially we can talk about and he's in that super modified, I don't know, the things that have 4 motors and 4,000 horsepower. That looks like a lot of fun. So I can't wait to talk to Ryan about that.
That also looks like a lot of dollars for a 10-second run to me. But when you hear them engines fire up and they're just screaming down the track, it just gets your blood running and your adrenaline going man, does that sound cool and looks like a lot of fun. But I can think of a lot of other things I can do that's fun and only lasts 10 seconds.
And that must be huge down there. There is so many farmers do that tractor pulling, whether it's a tractor, the diesels, the super modifieds, the minis, the pros. There's a bazillion different. That's very common down there for agriculture guys. I guess it's always farm parts and a farm write-off. So I guess they must have more income tax problems than I have. I don't need quite that many write-offs.
Well, it is what it is. We're farming in a totally different world than some of them guys down farther in the States that are growing what I presume is a bigger cash crop than the poverty crops we grow up here. And there's more of a crowd for it. So I would presume there'd be a bigger payout if you do end up in the money slot. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to go down to the States and see one that's at that caliber versus what we see here in Canada.
And they do end up with such a larger growing season. They start planting about the same time, end of April, beginning of May as us, and they'll harvest way later in the year. So they end up with way more summer to do fun things like that. So I don't knock them guys. Deep down, I'm quite jealous. So I can knock them because I am so jealous. And I am pretty happy to have tonight's guest or today's guest or whenever you listen to this on the Bunny Hug Farmers podcast. I have Chuck Toney, friend of mine up from Kitty Litter, Saskatchewan, has graciously decided to join us with his presence tonight. So Chuck, what have you been up to? Or I should say, what's up, Chuck?
Never heard that one before. Well, here at Kitty Litter, Saskatchewan, the drought has been, I thought we were past it, but it came back with a vengeance. So praying for rain, and we did get a half inch there Friday night and Saturday morning here, but I fear it's too little too late. So more praying for rain will be necessary. But all the in-crop spraying's done, and sprayed a little Kim Fellow for my cousin, and trying to keep the rodent population under control. And as per usual at this place, got a lot of older equipment kicking around here and pulling some wrenches and trying to keep stuff in tip-top shape. That sort of thing is what we've been up to here.
Oh, and you come from, a generation. You come from a farming family. I know you farm on your own, but your grandparents and parents probably farmed, didn't they?
Yep. No, my I guess just past the turn of the century, my great-grandfather, for whatever reason, he come up from Virginia and homesteaded here. And my grandpa was the oldest in his family, and then back in the day, I guess, bought my first land just out of high school, and went off to university to get my degree in mechanized agriculture, and farmed with my dad and my brother till 2015, and my parents split up at that time, and decided it was probably a really good time to venture out on my own. And I passed university. I come out of there married and got married. It'll be 25 years next week, actually. 25 years is a life sentence for those of you that don't know.
You would be getting out there if you would have, yeah. If you're in the pen, you'd be getting out any day now.
Yeah, exactly. My poor wife, she's stuck with me through thick and thin here, and a lot of sticking with me, so that's been good. But no,
I only got 22 more years to go, and my wife's sentence will be over. My wife and I just celebrated our 3rd wedding anniversary here a few days ago.
Well, congratulations. And your family's young, Tyler. That's and you know what? This is one thing I will say. You only get one chance to raise your kids, and there's no redos, right? So, take the time when necessary, Tyler. Like if there's a recital, sports event, whatever's happening, take the time, make the time, because you can't get a redo on that. And those are a lot of cherished moments. And I know Dallas takes the time to make sure he doesn't miss anything for that Hope has going on. And I definitely admire that, the guys that take the time to do that, because family first, for sure.
Well, that's, with us there, my wife and I, we tried to have children for years before we ended up having Hope. So, I mean, and at the time when actually we did get pregnant, I'd almost had given up. We'd done, 70-some trips to Regina to the fertility clinic and stuff like that. So I didn't know if we would ever get pregnant. So and I was ready to not be a father. I was ready to be the world's greatest uncle. And then, I was elk hunting in Cypress Hills, and Danita, my wife, texts me a picture of the old pregnancy test and said, "Can you see 2 lines on this?" Well, shit, a blind man and a deaf dog can see 2 lines on that. So on the way home through Swift Current, I picked up every pregnancy test, different one in Swift Current on the way home, so we could do more tests. And we got home, and we were so blessed and able to have Hope 9 months later. It was just, so I have made the extra time and shut down tractors, and even just like I said, I just come back on a little holiday. We got through with winter and spring started early, and we were cleaning grain late, and we pushed through seeding, and I was fairly caught up on the spraying. And we're in this part of the world, we're still in, at that time, a pretty major drought. Crops going backwards, not growing. Like I have lentils I don't think I've grown in 3 weeks. They haven't grown half an inch. They're just sitting there 4 inches tall in dry dirt, not growing. I'm like, that's enough. Let's go on a holiday. I've always wanted to see Old Faithful. Let's hop in the pickup, run down to West Yellowstone. We stayed in West Yellowstone, toured through Yellowstone Park. Beautiful, wonderful place. It's awesome. talked to some great people down there, had a really good time. Old Faithful, erupts every 90 minutes pretty faithfully. It was a little windy, so it wasn't quite as spectacular when Old Faithful erupts. If it's calmer, it erupts higher and it just makes a prettier picture. We were pretty windy, so kind of drifting it some, but that was cool. There's so much stuff to see in Yellowstone. Like, we were in there for one day and we drove what they call the lower loop, and we still put on like 205K just in the lower loop, and we didn't stop at every attraction. So if you're out there and you want a little holiday, and you got to have some deep pockets, it's pretty touristy out there, but it's so amazing. I mean, all that stuff, the ground bubbling up, volcanic activities is natural. I mean, so it's expensive. Drag your camper if you can. That'd be way cheaper. And maybe go to the grocery store, preferably not in West Yellowstone, pick up your groceries up there and make a trip out of it. Cause like Chuck said, my wife and my daughter and myself, we spent 4 days down there, a nice little family holiday, did some shopping in Great Falls, come home, stopped by Big Equipment at Havre. I wanted to see the old 747 Big Bud, and it wasn't there. But people at Big Equipment and Big Bud there, they said, well, go to the North Shop up there where we're building the brand new tractor. Take a look at it. Holy, that thing's massive and well built. It'll be cool when it's done. So I guess I'm rambling. Yeah, that was my little holiday. So
you said you did some shopping. Did you get some Dots pretzels like I've been telling you to get?
Oh, I got lots of Dots pretzels. And if you get them at a grocery store, the big bags of Dots pretzels are like $5.99 for a mega big bag. They're massive. Dots pretzels wants to come on here as a Bunny Hug Farmers podcast sponsor. Tyler and I will eat our way through the sponsorship, no problem. No, they were good. I got all sorts of varieties. I finished the Parmesan garlic. Those are really good. And I think I'm going to try the originals next.
Pretzels. I don't think I've heard of Dots pretzels, but I don't think I've tried any. I'll have to put that on my to-do list if I ever head south of the medicine line here in the future.
Even some of the co-ops have them here up the odd time. I don't know if they brought in a few to try if they sold, but you've got them at the co-ops up here, haven't you, Tyler?
Yeah, they had them at my local co-op here around Christmas time, but I haven't seen them back since. And I asked the guy that's responsible for doing the food orders, and he said, yeah, we got some on order. Don't know when they're going to be here. So, and in that time, they tore down that grocery store that I found them in, opened the new one. So I don't know if they've gotten lost in the shuffle or if they just haven't shown up yet. I'm not the one that does the grocery shopping in our household. It's the wife. So maybe they've been there and she just hasn't told me about it, or I don't know what the deal is, but I'm going to keep my eyes open every time I'm there.
Okay, but back to our fabulous guest over here, Mr. Chuck Toney. You separated from the main farm, but you farm with your son too, don't you?
Yep. No, my son had just finished this spring his third year of taking his agronomy degree at the U of S alma mater. So yeah, he's been helping me out for a lot of years, like for many years. Oh, I guess 13, 14, being on our own. He'd run the combine and I'd be the truck driver. And so yeah, he ran the old 2388 and he had some fun doing that. He had some fun this spring too, actually. He's got a stretch of bad luck going. Tires tend to blow up on the poor kid, and blew a tire in the summer of 2020 doing our pea harvest, the last decent harvest we had, and kaboom, there goes the tire on the 2388 and scared the living crap out of him. Pretty sure he had to empty his shorts. And then this spring, running the air drill and had a cart tire blow on us on Saturday afternoon at about 5 o'clock. And last year had a tire go on our four-wheel drive tractor we pulled the drill with, and lined up some tires from Silk Tire in Foam Lake. And Saturday at 5, well, who's going to answer the phone and plug out to Silk Tire? Well, I give the fellow a call I reached out to at that time, and he's like, oh, sure, we got 6 or 8 of them. When are you going to be here? I said, well, probably after midnight. And sure, we'll load you. Really? Okay, on my way, and reached out to Buddy there that runs the Tufnell Airbnb and the Tufnell Robbins Donuts, and asked him if I could crash on his couch. He said, better yet, you can crash in the spare room. So went up there and loaded up tires after midnight, had a couple pops.
Is that big bearded fellow with the funny hat that talks goofy sometimes?
That could be. I don't know. The coffee's good and the beer's cold. That's all I know.
Yeah, I think I've met him before.
Yeah, you probably have. He puts
on a good
there.
show.
Oh yeah, if you've been to one of his shows, your tummy hurts after from laughing too doggone much, anyways. But no, it got back and up and running left it, shortly after 5 in the morning. That's one fellow. I don't know. He one of the hardest working SOBs I know.
Me
But
too.
he got up and he went to work, and I headed home, and we were up and running later that afternoon. I don't know, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and back up and going. Yeah, a couple days later than the guy should have been done seeding, but it took us 15 days to get the crop in, so a little longer than it should have took for the few acres that we do, but whatever, it made her happen, and then prayed for rain and got some rain after we got done seeding this spring, which was good.
That's one thing I feel like engineers have engineered into everything. For it to mess up on a Friday or at the beginning of a long weekend at 5 o'clock.
100%. You bet.
Anytime we've had a major failure on something on our farm or on my family farm, it's on a Friday or a Thursday of a long weekend at 5 o'clock or 10 to 5.
But I like having or try to have redundancy or a plan. And I don't know, my age now, stuff doesn't stress me out as much. It's like there's a solution to every problem, okay? And somebody always has it worse, right? So if I'm feeling stressed out, I'm like, well, chances are Dallas has it worse than me, right, Dallas?
Oh, I got lots of issues there.
No, but you know what I mean? Like if it's dry, right? If I'm dry, and like you guys are big on the mental health and stuff like that, which I really appreciate. And I have my own network, right? If I'm having a bad day or are stressed about something, I can call buddy Brad, who you've met over the phone, Dallas, or my buddy Derek, or lots of guys, and that's my support, right? It's like if I'm having a bad day, well, Dallas would be like, well, hey Chuck, I hear you, man. I had the same thing happen, or I had a similar thing happen, and you don't feel so alone, right? And it just takes the edge off, and you crack a few jokes, you poke fun at one another, and then you talk about your family, your kids, and focus on the positive, right? And that's where it's like, yeah, oh, no big deal. Tire blew. It's only $11,250 bill for 2 tires, right?
And it could have got worse. You could have ran out of fuel on the way home.
Well, exactly, right? Like something silly like that could have happened, right?
It could have happened.
It could have happened.
It really could have happened. Like it probably did happen.
Shit happens all the time.
Within sight of a fuel station, your truck could literally die as you're pulling these tires home. Like you thought you could do it. And so, it could have happened. You could have ran out of fuel and had to walk the Canadian Tire to buy a jerry can, to walk to a gas station, to buy diesel fuel, to walk back to your truck, to pour it in your truck, to fire it up, to drive the last 400 feet to a gas station. That could have happened. But you know what?
I feel like you guys are saying it could have happened. I'm thinking you guys need to say it did happen.
But there it is, right? So it's one of those things that instead of getting all stressed about it, the guy just laughs about it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And to have that network of people that you can lean on, but also laugh with and at you, right? Sometimes happens, right? And yeah, like it's good. It's good to laugh, right? And it's good to there's some stuff that really matters, like your family, right? And family first, but that matters, right? Running out of fuel, hey, somebody has it worse, right? They ran out of fuel and they had to walk miles, right? As opposed to a couple hundred yards.
In between the Canadian Tire and the gas station. I mean, amazing.
Yeah, exactly. But focus on the positive, right? I'm an old fat guy and I could use the exercise, and you get the exercise you need, right?
And now you own one brand new jerry can.
100%. And
did you get the new kind that has the vent again? That's what I really want to know in this 100%. Situation. You got one with the vent.
Oh yeah. The new jerry can was just like the new math. The new jerry can didn't work. Neither does the new math. No, but it's like farming with my son, and my daughter. I got 2 daughters as well. Like here, every spring I post on social media. I'm looking for an aggregate removal engineer, and somehow my kids get roped into doing that. And for those of you that don't know, an aggregate removal engineer is a rock picker, and I do have a rock picker. And my daughter is she ran at lots last spring and some again this spring before she had to go start her job up at Cypress this summer. But there's it's a family operation here, and we seeded just under, I guess, 4,000 acres, which is, and where I live is a kind of a part-time job, and we got around 100 head of cows here now. I used to have twice that amount, and I guess there's a bit of a story there when it comes to that. The drought was knocking the crap out of our meadow brome grass, because we had back in the day seeded a lot of this marginal land back to meadow brome and alfalfa, and it grew good when it rained. And there's a reason why back in the 30s, when all this land was blowing, that they seeded a bunch of it to crested wheatgrass. Crested wheatgrass survives. It's tough. Meadow brome, it throws its hands up and quits. So I had just acres and acres of ground that just nothing grew. Not a thing. Just summer followed itself. And so I guess May 23rd of 2022, and I got a bad thing with the twos. I got ran over by a cow because I'm an old fat guy. Was walking through the cows, calving them, and usually I would ride my horse most of the time, but I'm like, I need exercise. Grab the old hockey stick that's broke off, and you go out there and you check cows. And I was calving on grass on just like 40 acres or so. So you wander around out there and you see who's calved, and you tag the calves that were calved the night before or the day before. That morning I was out there, and this good old 406 she had calved, and it looks like any other cow, nothing special about her. And she was getting a bit snorty. So I'm like, whatever, I just left her. I wasn't going to tag it. And for some reason, I don't know why, she turned around and gave a run at me. And I thought, well, I'll just step out of the way and give her a whack on the nose with the stick. And she got me and hammered me into the ground a few times. And I wasn't far from a barbed wire fence, and I couldn't stand up. So I crawled over the barbed wire fence and called the wife and told her where I was, and hung up. And 30 seconds later, she called back and asked me where I was. And I told her where I was again. And she drove out there and helped lift me into the car, and went to the house and took off my shitty Carhartts and whatnot, and got back in the car and went to the hospital in Swift Current. And don't know the drill exactly on going to emergency. So I called ahead, and it's $246 to get them to help you out of your car onto a gurney. And I guess that's where I got to know the fellow from Tufnell there. I got on, after I got some good fentanyl in me and some hydromorph, got on social media because I had a bunch of cows ready to calve and needed help. So I said, does anybody know anybody that I could hire to get these cows calved out and whatnot? And got a message from a fellow that said, here, give me your number. I'll call you and cheer you up. And that's the last thing you want, is somebody that'll make you laugh so hard your tummy hurts to call you just after your back's been broken. Because yeah, it hurts a lot. But I guess it was a good hurt. Anyways, I'm still going to get even with that fellow someday. But prior to that, back in...
Tyler and I are going to get even with him too. We're going to put him on this podcast someday.
Oh yeah.
Anybody's wondering, it's Quick Dick that we're referring to here as the bearded fellow.
Your listenership's pretty sharp. I'm sure they picked up on that by now. But
just in case we have any new listeners.
And if you're a new listener, if you're one, because we do have people in all throughout the world, just Google Quick Dick McDick QDM. He'll make you laugh. He's a hell of a nice guy. Great, pretty good farmer, really good farmer, ranch hand, and basically self-made stand-up comedian. And taking off from there. But so with your medical injury there, Chuck, what all happened? How badly banged up were you? And how was the medical treatment?
Well, so I fractured my L1 vertebrae, and this is like kind of half post-COVID or whatever. And that's the other thing that I had got COVID in February. You get there and you tell them that, hey, yeah, no, I had COVID just a month or so ago, and I'm going to test positive. Nope, they got to stick a swizzle stick to your
back of your eyeball.
Yeah, back of my eyeball, yeah. And last thing you want to do is have that happen. Makes you want to sneeze when your back's broke. And then they want to check you for internal bleeding. So then they stand you up and they get 2 physiotherapists and your wife there, and you got to provide a urine sample. Well, I'm kind of shy and whatnot. Took me about 20 minutes to take a tinkle there to provide them with a urine sample. But anyways, no, I got got care, and it's like, yeah, nothing you can do. I've been in the hospital for a couple days and off to Regina to get my back brace or rock climbing gear is what everybody was teasing me I had, and back home. And then I don't know, for those of you that haven't had painkillers, hydromorph isn't good. It bungs you up, and yeah, there was worse pain from that than my back being broke. And yeah, so it get home, and then Buddy, his son, was able to, he spared him, I guess, from helping him on his ranch, and he helped calve things out. And my wife and two oldest kids, they were booked in to go on a European school trip, so they went on that, and stuff got looked after. My cousin, who I worked back and forth with a bit there, and he come over and helped out while I was gone. Cows got calved out, and a buddy there came and worked at a local repair shop. He got some time off, and he helped me get the crop in the ground. And no, solution to every problem. You make her happen, and just pop some Advil when a guy had some pain, and got through that. And then the light bulb went off in my head. It's like, the grass is dead. I'm sick and tired of putting up the Pittville pine, the kochia from every last Tom, Dick, and Harry slough and reed canary and cattails to feed these doggone cows. I'm like, I should get rid of half the cows and break up this pasture. So, well, there wasn't any grass really in the spring of 22 again, and so got the cows out on the native pasture and some rented pasture, and started breaking up spraying out the grass. And then some got the disc and the pro-till, and some got the spikes and the disc and the pro-till. And the spring of 23, yeah, I guess kind of almost doubled my acres, and then picked up some more rented land last spring to get us up to where we're at. And I was already fairly well equipped farming wise. Like, I had a combine that could handle it, and a air drill and air cart. Then it's my Sexy Coil 5000. I'm not into these independent drills, or I'm not a mid-row bander fan. I'm not going to mention anything about that company at St. Brew because I'd fear a lawsuit. But
you two might go to fight, and there's a St. Brew guy and a Sexicoil guy in the same podcast. There could be a lot of curse words if you guys figure this out.
Yeah. Well,
each to their own. Everybody's got their own opinion, and that's what we're about here. We want to hear everybody's stories, everybody's opinion on equipment, if they can keep it PG. Everybody has an opinion, and most opinions are valid.
Yeah, most 100%. Yeah, I got a buddy there that I went to university with, and so that was a thing. So he's up in BG country there, and so yeah, he made him a deal with him, and I go up there and help him for a few days. And with my I got a tandem old not Western Star, I got a Kenworth 100B with a silage box on it. I go help him put up his corn silage, and that just in a few days we get couple thousand ton of corn silage put up. And yeah, he's got some of the best dirt in Saskatchewan, can grow what often guys on irrigation are envious of on dry land for a corn crop. He does a very good job of farming, and so he feeds the cows from the middle of December until end April or beginning of May, and then cows come back down here to go on grass, and we got about half the cows, and it works out well here. I got less stress and less help because my son and oldest daughter at university, so they were always a big help at calving and whatnot. So it worked out well that way for me. And I guess with cattle prices up, it's not as good to to have as many to sell, but and whatever, the farming is a lot less work. With modern equipment and whatnot, it's easy to get a lot of acres put in short order, and it spreads out the workload, and I'm not spending a few days sorting cows and hauling them off to pasture and stuff. They just show up and whatnot. So that's a definite positive. It's worked out well for him too. He's got a couple hired men up there, and he can grow feed, and he's well equipped to feed cattle. So good facilities and whatnot. Yeah, he's actually another fellow you guys should have on here, because he comes from an interesting background where his grandpa was into chickens, his dad was into hogs, and now he has cattle. So yeah, there's no matter where you go across Saskatchewan, there's more than one way to skin this farming, ranching, whatever job you got, and you find a way to make it work with the resources that are available. And like when my great grandfather came to Homestead here, he heard a ticket to Maple Creek, got off the train at Gull Lake, and Virginia's an awful nice place to leave, and came up here and heard there was a place where there's good cattle grazing to the south and farmland to the north. Well, here you go south of my place, a little over a mile, and it turns to sandhills. It's just grass. You ain't farming it. It literally, there's a line across the field, and the soil texture turns to pure sand. And yeah, so, and the sandhills is great grass, should never be broke, should be, our government should preserve that land and keep it as it is, because it's a very, very beautiful. I don't know,
So
like
we can start
Yellowstone was nice.
the Great Sandhills Park, government park, maybe that sounds like not a bad idea.
I'm not a huge fan of big government, but I'm not going to get political here. But the Yellowstone, it's got beauty in its own way. But I tell you one thing, there's nothing better in my eyes from where I grew up to get out there in the middle of the sandhills, and you get in some stretches, and I've been there on horseback. You can't see fences. It's just, a little bit of chokecherry bush, some sage, some spear grass, some blue grama. It's just, you got lots of deer, and well, I guess we got elk and moose and stuff all around here now. And wolves are back, and yeah, beautiful place to be. And I tell you, like, it's one of the most beautiful places. And well, and that's like our former premier Brad Wall. He'd be a great guy to have on your podcast, because him and his son Coulter, same thing.
And
they're
also incredibly hard to get a hold of.
We'll see if we can make that happen. But
yeah, Brad,
like,
if you're listening, we'd love to have you on here.
Well, and a different perspective, right? Because it's all paths. Like Dixon there went off to the oil patch in Alberta, worked there for years, did very, very well, hardworking, smart individual. Hey, your roots pull you back, right? And yeah, he's got a great story to tell. And yeah, you come back to your roots. You can't fight it. It's in the guy's blood, right? Like my son, he ain't fighting it either, right? It's in his blood farming. If it's there, you're drawn back to the land, right? I don't know what else I'd be doing, right? Even though we have our challenges, no better place to be, right, is at home, whether it be in Southeast Saskatchewan or like your place, Dallas. Beautiful place to raise a family and to farm, right? You got your challenges, but man, you took me on to see your guys' land up on the bench. Yeah, beautiful, to see a herd of, how many elk were there, Dallas? Like,
that time was only a couple of dozen, but I mean, I've had hundreds and hundreds down there.
Yeah, and yeah,
you want to watch the couple of hundred elk tramping through your lentils almost makes instant summer follow. It's a beautiful thing, as it brings a tear to your eyes.
Well, and that elk aren't the nicest thing. I've heard that they just plow through fence. We get transient elk here, and I don't know what like a moose has been here, like a swamp donkey. We got alkali. That's it.
And the elk, when they lay down in your crop, especially if you have like a canola, like they lay down, like I think it's like an elk orgy going on. Like there is beds everywhere. Like how can so few elk have so many beds? Like it's got to be an orgy. It's just some sort of weird elk orgy or something, because elk are amazing, but they are a pain in the ass. And I've seen it with my own eyes when an elk is determined, especially a herd of them, like the first one might jump the fence, and the
rest don't.
300 just say F this. And next thing you know, there is 3/4 of a mile of fence just destroyed. Posts are ripped out. Wires they're dragging wires with them. And it's just like, oh my God, like thank God this is not our fence. But somebody should really know about this, but they can just it's just like, well, it's time for a full rebuild because that fence is gone.
Well, and we don't have a lot of problem with elk in our area. We do have elk in our area, but not to that extent. We got a little more problem with definitely whitetails doing damage to fence. Not anywhere to that extent that you just talked about, Dallas, but swamp donkeys or moose. I normally have a fair bit of fence to fix each spring from them buggers.
Well, we don't have many deer left here anymore. The chronic wasting has taken them, and that's the other thing that's interesting. If you read the history books from my neck of the woods, where I live, we have no water, right? It's just alkali, and you can dig down in the sand, and we got spring-fed dugouts and shallow wells in the sand, and good water and lots of it. But prior to the settlers coming here, there wasn't water. So when the settlers come to my neck of the woods, we had antelope and jackrabbits. That was it. There wasn't deer until wells were drilled, windmills were put up and dams were built, or a wet year when the potholes would fill with water. But yeah, it was pretty desolate country here. I don't think there was too many folks that were tough enough to stick it out. They weren't camels.
No,
in this
and
neck
that's
of
one
the
thing we
woods.
need to get on the podcast here, Tyler. If somebody knows of one, I want to talk to a son of a homesteader, an old farm veteran here that can tell stories of what his. I mean, I have stories of what my family went through and stuff, but there's got to be some guys out there that must have tremendous stories of the hardship and the desire to the homestead. It is like in our own family. My grandfather went back and forth to France, and before he came over and lived up in the winter in an upside down wagon. I'm sure there's some guys out there that could really tell some good stories that they want to share with the world. And I think the world wants to hear them. And I know I do too.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like my great grandfather come here and built this odd shack and, stuck it out and then went back to Virginia and brought a bride here. You come from lush Virginia, right? To kitty litter,
Sod
Saskatchewan.
shack.
Yeah, like I tell you the resilience, the tough survived, right? There's all these homesteads and old yard sites. There's two I farmed just south of me here, and I've run across a few old wells in my day of farming, right, that have imploded over the years. But the tough survived, and like we're here, right, because our ancestors were tough. They
Not
survived.
to mention it, to come from Virginia, probably living in a log cabin or a nice house, to move into a sod house. That's true love. To do that transition and then move to a different country into a sod house, that's true love.
Well, and to like the winters here, right? Like no trees, right? Like there's no trees here, right? Like I remember a funny story. So I have a sister that is a vet, and when she went to the U of S and getting her being a doctor in veterinary medicine, one of the students there that came from a province to the left coast, and it's like, what'd you guys do with all the trees? Like after you cut them down, like didn't you replant them? No, this is the prairies. Like the only trees here, like maybe some trees were growing and like the Cypress Hills and Wood Mountain near you there,
Yeah, the
Dallas.
bench has trees. Yep.
But most other places, it's just prairie. Unless somebody planted them, there's no trees here, right? They all burnt in the prairie fires until the land was settled and the prairie fires were stopped, unless the thunder showers came and put them out or it hit the river. Yeah, they just burnt everything. So yeah, it's things are different, and when you look back at it and pay attention to the history and whatnot, there's a lot of stuff that seems normal to us today through the eyes we look through, but I'd love to go back in time and look from 10,000 feet and just hit fast forward and just see what my ancestors went through, go through all the years of the drought, feeding cows Russian thistle to get them through the winter, of just struggling to feed your family through the winter. My great-grandfather went out in the 30s out to Pincher Creek looking for better land and didn't buy it then, but went out later in the 40s and bought land at Pincher Creek, and I had two great uncles, my two youngest great uncles, that they went out there near Cowley and lived on a ranch that they had bought out there. And the neighbors didn't have much, and neither did they. But the neighbors had turnips. So my two uncles, that's what they survived on, was turnips that winter. At every family event, Thanksgiving, Easter, Christmas, often we'd have turnips. Those two uncles would never eat turnips. They had enough that one winter to last a lifetime.
Well, I know my great grandfather bought the farm at McCord in 28. Like he had homesteaded at Assiniboia in 5, and then he sold that. He homesteaded with his brother. He sold that to his brother and bought the one in McCord in the earlier 20s. And then in 28, they had a pretty good crop. I guess lots of oats. And he sold the oats to the RCMP barracks at Wood Mountain. And he was hauling these oats back and forth, wagon load, probably with an oxen. I got to get Dad to give me a refresher on this story again. But I know on one of the stories, he stopped, one of the trips, he stopped, and he lit a fire to warm up some beans or something like that. And if any, it didn't end up lighting a damn prairie fire. And it burned, I guess, a lot of ground. Fire took off, and I don't know all the details. I guess he didn't report it or put it out or whatever. He went back to McCord, loaded another load of oats in the wagon, went back there, and then they asked him if he lit that fire, and he admitted to it, and so they jailed him, and they had to come up with a couple, probably $100, I think, back in them days in the 20s, to get him out of jail. But they had to let him out early because they're running out of oats, and he had to go make another run to McCord for more oats. So when I toured the Fort Walsh RCMP, Fort Walsh it was, and the lady was showing us there, and this is how small the cells were. And I was inside, and I told that lady the story of how my great-grandfather was jailed. And she said, well, I've told this story to thousands of people. You're the first descendant of anybody that we've ever known being jailed in one of these jails.
That's a cool story. a part of our history.
Part of our history. Yeah, great grandpa loved to burn shit down.
Well, we had a neighbor sent up smoke signals to let everybody know he started haying here earlier this week. And that's another thing, like the independence that we have here. And I know you, Dallas, were on RM Council, volunteering your time, and that's a big part about living in rural Saskatchewan is volunteering. Volunteering on the fire department, and we kind of look after our own, right? We don't look at Big Brother to look after us. And that was the other thing that my great grandfather also did is everybody, before he had kids and stuff, even, first thing our ancestors did was built a school, and they wanted a better education for their kids, and they saw that as a need, and that was one of the first things did in the community from people from all over, right? From all different walks of life and different areas and different backgrounds. They built a school for their kids for the common good. The other thing my great grandfather did, he was one of the first involved in the 20s there. Had one of the first rubber tired tractors in the country here. They needed fuel and they needed oil. And where do you get fuel and oil? Well, for a lot of us, you go down to the local co-op, get your fuel, get your oil. Well, he was one of the first co-ops was at Hazelett, and he was one of the first guys to help get that organized. So yeah, that's I guess a bit of a feather in my family's hat is, co-ops are everywhere throughout Saskatchewan. It's a big deal in Saskatchewan, and one of the first co-ops in the province was in Hazelett. And that just a little neat part of history and whatnot that maybe people don't know, and it should be celebrated in my mind, that all the good stuff that our ancestors and forefathers did for Saskatchewan and Canada as a whole.
And like you said, good stuff, but it was done incredibly hard. I mean, I can't fathom going back to, he had the first rubber tired tractor. There's no cab, there's no heater, no air, no nothing. It was just a rubber tired tractor. I mean, you're a tractor aficionado there. You love your tractors and you have quite a few of them, but you imagine just rip the cab off that 4430 and let's go seeding. Oh, hey, let's put it on steel wheels too for a while, just to show how fun that was, and spend all them hours out there and something that was, and you wonder why them old boys were, what? Them things were so damn loud. I mean, we're lucky their grandchildren weren't deaf because of how loud their tractors were. Here, and I made several videos complaining about the noise in the one tractor we have, and because it's like 78 decibels. I bet you, behind some of them, twin lunger John Deeres and other ones, I don't know my tractor antiques very well, but they'd be some ass noisy. Tyler, you've been behind some of them antique tractors when you're working the snot out of them, obviously at the tractor pulls. They must have been, especially they weren't in good shape. The exhaust was probably half rotten and falling off them. They would have been deathly loud and hard on a body.
Well, I even know just doing that tractor pull I did here yesterday, I was on that Farmall 560, and it's got a muffler on it. And my sister-in-law was there. She was taking a video of me pulling. I didn't even know the announcer was talking. It was that loud. Like, all I could hear was the tractor, and my thoughts in my brain, like, okay, don't screw up, keep going. Oh, we're starting to spin, throttle down. But I couldn't hear the announcer. I didn't know what he was saying, but
imagine being on that for 15 hours straight. Your daughter would be deaf that you'd be so deaf.
Could you imagine, though, sitting on one of them tractors and setting out, okay, I got 4 quarters I got to go seed at 12 feet a pass. Let's get at her. On a steel seat, no backrest. Nowadays, I complain if I get stuck with one of the tractors that doesn't have cab suspension or a good radio.
You're like one of my drill princesses.
You're a tractor princess there, Tyler.
my tractor princess.
That's your new TikTok handle. But like my grandfather just loved to run a swather, do summer follow. Like he's 82 years old, help him up into the cab of the tractor to do a little harrow packing back in the day. Like that's what he lived for, right? That was his enjoyment. Didn't have hobbies, right? Farming was in his blood. Right.
Well, yes, it is definitely a part of us. Like I just, thinking to myself back to that noise, how loud rocks and tillage and clanging and banging, and not only the noise from your tractor, it's the noise from the implement, and the dust, and in this area, the dust and the dirt. And I look about it now and I shake my head thinking, why did he ever, I guess that's the reason my grandfather didn't want his children to farm. because it was not easy. But one thing here that Tyler and I are very proud of that we like to bring to the attention is the farm stress line that we have in Saskatchewan. Because, there's always been this stereotype in agriculture that, farmers and ranchers are big, tough guys that, that don't need any help. We can do anything. But now we have to get past that stereotype that we do need help. We have to have a social net. Like Chuck said earlier, he talks to lots of buddies that help him talk through things. But maybe sometimes you don't have a buddy you can talk through things. That's why we are huge with the farm stress line.
Their number is 1-800-667-4442. They're out there to help you.
Exactly. They're out there to help you. Yep. I don't know. It means a lot to both of us to bring this out, because I've had buddies tell me that they've called this number, which it's, whether you're just having a tough day and you can't handle it and you don't know which way to go, or you're thinking some terrible thoughts. I mean, that's what's out there. And there's so much more than that number. You talk to an operator that's trained in handling, talking to people in agriculture. You don't have to give your name. You don't have to divulge too much, and you can only say what you want to say. But they're there to help. They're not there to judge. They're only there to help. And that's the huge thing is, and there's so much help available. If a person's willing to say, I'm having a tough time with this, I need a little help. And that's key. You got to just say, sometimes it's, Chuck and I are both in the same boat. Our farms aren't that far away from each other. We're both in the same boat of, man, we have been in a dry spell. We both got a half an inch of rain overnight, but that doesn't even get me at 2 inches this year, so we know we're hurting, but, we have each other and we have our buddies, but some people don't have that. And if you want to talk to somebody, give them a call. They'll talk you through things, because Saskatchewan government has so much stuff available, not just for farmers. There's right for dementia helpline, First Nations helpline, sexual assault helpline, mobile crisis unit, problem gambling helpline. Like, there's helplines for everything. If you're having a problem with anything, do a little Googling. There's a number. There'll be somebody there to talk to.
Well, that gambling helpline, I think I should call it, because like every year farming's a gamble. You roll the dice, you do what you can do, right? You control your weeds, you look after the plant nutrition, right? You got the equipment set to go. It's a huge investment nowadays to put the crop in the ground. And I thought we had turned the corner. The drought was behind us, and it turns out it wasn't. And 2023 was the worst crop ever here. And everybody asked me, well, how were things last year? And 24, twice as good as the year before. Oh, that's good. Yeah, twice as good as my worst year ever. Still not that great, but going back to our ancestors, they had 5, 6, 7, 8 kids to feed. And often you look at in Alberta there, those special areas country, talking to some of those folks, their parents over there, they couldn't feed the kids. They had to farm out their children. Like, who'd take them? Hope there's a couple that, don't have very many kids. And they sent them away. Talk about a tough decision to be made, to send your children to live with people you don't know hundreds and hundreds of miles away. Yeah, we got it pretty good nowadays where, I'm not worried about where my next meal's coming from or that, I got a roof over my head and whatnot. Like, they didn't have crop insurance, the support programs that we have today to support our farmers. And, we're not waiting on salted cod coming from the East Coast to get delivered on the train, right?
And
it's not so bad.
The town with that milk pail full of milk, so you can send it on the train to get paid the $1.12 you get paid for the jug full of 5 gallons of milk you're exporting. She's a way different time. My grandfather, God rest his soul, he remembers as a young boy watching them build the railroad tracks coming over the hill and snaking its way through the countryside. And they would build, kind of the camps they had, and they'd build the roads up, they build the road, the rail bed, and built it up. And he said it took weeks for them to go a couple of miles. And he said he never thought in his lifetime as a child watching it being built, to watch in a matter of hours it being ripped out later on. But that's how things have changed.
Yep. And that's the only thing that stays the same is everything changes. And when it comes to our farming practices, the tilled summer fallow, right? And 50-50 and just growing wheat in summer fallow to canola, mustard, lentils, peas, canary seed, any numerous other crops, chickpeas, flax. There's a ton of other crops, and that's the other thing that is a real feather in, being the bunny hug farmers in Saskatchewan here. Frigstad, Morris, Seedhawk, Seedmaster, Bourgault, Flexicoil, all these companies are, from Saskatchewan. The innovation that's been done by, in farm shops, right? And I don't just have the old sexy coil 5. I got 2 drills, 1 air cart. I got a pillar, disc drill, and Dick Friesen, used to work for CNH and was a designer there. And when they Case and New Holland amalgamated, those guys kind of got thrown by the wayside, and that just like farming's in our blood, innovating and designing stuff is in Dick's blood. Came up with the pillar laser disc drill, and that's what I run. It has its place. It works well, and trying to keep our stubble as tall as we can, and seed through those Russian thistle patches and our hailed out stuff. Has happened in the past. Like, that innovation comes from Saskatchewan, and that's a real feather in Saskatchewan's hat, I think, is the sheer amount of innovation that comes from here. Yeah, it's cool that Big Buds in Havre there and whatnot, and that innovation and Steigers comes from North Dakota there. But all that seeding innovation and the rod weeder, and you go to Nobleford, Alberta, the Noble Blade, and all that stuff to meet the challenges of the day. Farmers don't quit. There's that solution to every problem. They just
big equipment in Big Bud. They're at Havre, which is only like 40 miles south of like Console, Saskatchewan. They are basically as Saskatchewan as you can get without being here. So, I mean, that's a testament to them, because that's the same territory that we're in, and that's the same drought-stricken area right now that we're in, and that's the same agriculture that's also suffering down in that part of the world too. They're also well in part of that Palliser Triangle. The innovation doesn't stop at the border. It comes from having to make what we have work. And sometimes it takes going to the shop and rebuilding the wheel to make it work right.
Well, and it's funny you say that, Dallas. Like, where did the Prairie Farm Report go? Like, I look so forward to that as a young guy, watching the innovation that came from farmers' shops. And many moons ago, I was lucky enough to be on the Prairie Farm Report there. Some young fellow, I happened to catch it the other day. I was on there and putting the dual fuel line kit on the old Versatile 835, and kind of stole that idea off of on highway tractors and such. I got the old W900B with the 444 Cummins in it, bought the dual fuel line kit for it from Pittsburgh Power in the US, and I got a kind of a diesel addiction. You got to make things better and tweak things a little bit. And so bent up a fuel line and put it on that tractor. And sure enough, that tractor ran smoother, had more power, went up a full gear in the old dive, especially after put the fast system on it, or AirDog is another good fuel system that does a similar thing.
So would that fuel system with that extra line, would that work on the world's most famous 9280 that boost a little more power out of it? Yeah.
It should.
Yeah,
if you and it's pretty simple.
Fuel line?
Well, no, that's a you job. I'm not that handy.
I need to find someone that can really, massage a tractor, make him run better. That's what I'm looking for. And I think I found a guy right here. If you want to come,
you could put an
make
AirDog on it. That'll definitely wake it up. Oh yeah.
Well, bring that down too. I'll help you install it.
Yeah. Well, I put an AirDog on my 9320 John Deere this spring, and I tell you, that woke that tractor up. My son and I were like, what happened? This tractor used to have to downshift. I don't have to downshift anymore.
That growing piece of iron even made it out of the shed.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a green tractor fan, except for the old tractors. Like, I had a problem. Is it an addiction when you have 3 John Deere 4240s? I sold one. Had a buddy there, did a TikTok on it to try and help me sell it. It was the world's prettiest 4240, and professionally repainted and redone, and all new interior and everything and the like. But I gotta keep my hands busy. When you get rid of the cows, idle hands do the devil's work. So you gotta keep them busy doing something, and repairing stuff and fixing stuff and making it better is kind of what I try and do.
I'm guilty of the same thing. I don't go to quite that extent, but just I also like tinkering, and I like trying to make things better myself, but that's what makes us farmers, right? Like a farmer's always trying to improve something. And getting back to what we were talking about earlier, a lot of this modern equipment that we're running today, like Borgo drills, Degelman stone pickers, all that, they were originally built by a farmer who either there wasn't something out there good enough, or they were trying to improve on something that was already out on the market.
Yep, the Honey Brothers and their swathers, lit into all sorts of, honeybee manufacturing and their, marvelous straight cut headers. And, they made a couple of really cool big 2-wheel drive tractors. Speaking of sprayers and equipment, I'll let you do a shameless plug here there, Chuck. You got a sprayer you've upgraded. As the farm grew, you had to get a little bigger equipment. So just in case you haven't got this sold by the time this comes out, do you want to mention what you're trying to sell here?
Well, I have a bad influence on my life. He shall remain nameless. I end up having to buy a yellow combine and a 4440 sprayer and whatnot. But I got my old sprayer to sell. I kind of joke that it's a cowboy sprayer. It's a Spray Flex. It's built on a international 4300 chassis. It's got if you're big into tractor pulling, it's got a 466 International in it, one of the toughest motors ever built. Those motors the bottom end can handle 1500 horsepower stock on them. They're just stout as you wouldn't believe. It's got an Ellison automatic transmission in it, sugar beet harvester, 2-speed auxiliary transmission to put her into low gear when you're in the field. 120-foot box aluminum boom, 1,550 gallon tank, and I've had it for. I guess I bought it in the fall of 2014, had it for 10 years, and it can cover a lot of acres and whatnot. I just need a little more flexibility and whatnot, a lot of common parts on it. Great sprayer for somebody, and it's inexpensive, and it's not proprietary parts. It's not like an Apache or some of them other ones out there that are in the Cimarron genre. Yeah, everything to buy for it is head to Great Falls to get some boom parts if you need it, and I got lots of spare parts to go with it. But it'd be an excellent addition to somebody that has got a pull type high clearance sprayer or took on some more acres and needs a little more tank capacity and a little more width to get stuff done. But yeah, it's been a good unit for me, and it's still sitting in the shed where it gets parked every winter, and it's ready for a new home. I hope there's a buddy of mine that could maybe do a TikTok to help me pedal that sometime soon here.
Tyler, get on that. No, that's because if you're looking for a sprayer, you want to do a little upgrading. Hey, I don't know what you've been for. We got an auction going on this. I'll start off at $1, and we're going to go from there. Yeah,
I
$1
pay
here,
commission.
$1. Commission.
Yeah, I'll pay commission. I got no good deed goes unpunished. That's how I operate.
That's one thing. Upgrading is always part. I mean, what you want to upgrade out of, a little more road speed, a little bigger boom, basically the same tank. That's how this works. Is if you're not moving forward, that's what they say, you're moving backwards, something like that.
Yeah, well, it's great. This thing had 3-inch fill on it, and upgraded to 3-inch fill on my sprayer tender trailer, so to speak, this spring, and that made a huge difference in fill times. And it's like you do one thing a little bit better every year. You go self-evaluate. That's what my son and I like to do. Is just, okay, we got done seeding. Where did we mess up? Where could we do better? Did we seed too deep, too shallow? Our fertility, where could we do better on the fertility side? And I never soil tested for years, but here after the drought came on, everybody's soil testing because, well, when it was raining, well, you added so much nitrogen, right? You used it. But now in the drought, it's like, well, did I use that nitrogen? Oh, I guess I didn't. Well, I don't need to spend that much money. It's money well invested to get your soil tested to see how much nitrogen is available. And then the other thing we've done is adjusted our yield goals. They're no longer, 40 bushels an acre durum on stubble here. It's more like 25, for a yield goal. Let's fertilize for 25.
I remember doing the same thing. People that do our soil testing, they have a fancy little program, and how much rain and what are you looking for, and this is what you need. Well, we had the bar set at 6 inches of rainfall, because that kind of historically has been kind of an average. You can grow a pretty good crop in 6, you grow a phenomenal crop in 10. You can't grow dick shit of a crop with 2.
Pretty much.
And then if you would have slid that little bar back the 2 inches next year when we're doing our soil test, I'm again to do that. 2 inches. What do we need? Well, you need to almost get a mine out there and take some shit out of the ground. You have too much in there is what's going to happen.
Well, and that's the thing now. Like if you have the ability to top dress with a sprayer, or I got a Selford Trooper spin spreader, spreads 80 feet at 10 or so mile an hour, you can cover a decent number of acres in a day, and it wasn't a huge investment for that rig, to top dress some nitrogen in season. I put out all my sulfur, nitrogen, and potash with the spreader in the fall. Makes my tank bigger in the spring, and that helps me get more acres done in the spring in a day, right? I'm not spending as much time filling and more acres per fill. I only got a small cart nowadays, 440 bushels, and it's a solution to our problem here. Right. And I don't have problems I got an air guard on my air cart, so I don't have problems with for the most part, like we can seed in the mist, especially with the disc drill. It's muddy and stuff. Well, I can just keep right on rolling with the disc drill and the air guard on the cart there. I don't have no sulfur in the drill, just phosphorus, and it doesn't plug up on the rollers and doesn't gum up in the towers like a lot of guys were having this spring, and just keep right on rocking and rolling. And
why are you looking at me?
I'm not looking at you. You gumming up stuff this spring, Dallas, and complaining about fertility?
Well, folks, we've had a little technical difficulties with my phone and stuff here, so this may or may not work. It'll be another one of the lost episodes. If it is, and you'll never hear this anyways. But yeah, we're going to end her a little short here because for some reason, Tyler and Chuck are uploading perfectly fine, and I'm uploading 0. So we're going to shut her down early. Thank you so much for listening. As always, Tyler and I thank everybody for listening. We have such a ball making these. We enjoy all the feedback, all the thanks we get from people. This has been just so much fun. As anybody you want us to talk to, if they're available, tell them to shoot us a message, comment on this video, or not this video, on this podcast. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on, was it Player FM? Something like that, Tyler?
Yeah.
Player
FM and Podcastle, I believe, as well.
Okay.
I need to look. I should know. I'm the one that does all the uploading of this stuff. I should be on top of that. But
yeah, but
I do apologize to our loyal listeners, and thanks for listening.
We have such a ball. Thanks, Chuck, for coming and joining us, and let's hope this work turns out.
Thanks for listening to the Bunny Hug Farmers Podcast.